One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Welcome back, everybody, to the One's Ready podcast. We got a quick one for you. You know what? We get this question all the time, so we're just going to fix it. What does SR do? So I brought on the guy that wrote exactly what SR does and can explain it. Trent, you were an SR guy, and previously you were a SOWT guy. So quick hitter. Why did we change from SOWT to SR?
The need. The demand signal from the Pentagon changed.
Right.
There were political things and all that other stuff, but as we look towards the near peer, whatever you want to call it, next generation fight, there were gaps, especially in the Air Force tactical infrastructure that needed to be filled. They had a small career field that was going through some stuff anyway, and they're like, you know what would be better if we just had a special reconnaissance career field to be the tactical arm of the EW intel type folks. To get out there and solve these problems, to allow the Air Force to be a leader instead of just an enabler in the next gen fight.
We look for capabilities, not for people, right? So people talk about SR and they look at what SR is and they think about it's inverse the way that they think about it, right? So what Trent just said is there was a capabilities need. SOCOM, who provides special operations forces to the entire DoD architecture, they looked and they were like, hey, Air Force, we have these needs. To fix Air Force problems, we have these needs. And it's easier to build off of an old career field, SOWT, that already had some of these things that were already written in. It is a beast to try to just make something up out of nowhere. Because then you got to make a schoolhouse, and then you got to find them training seats, and then you got to find them funding, and then you got to find them people. We already had something that we could just morph into something else. SOWT dudes were already freefall jumpers. They already had slots at freefall school. They already had a name. They already had people that were assigned to these units. It's a queepy administrative function, but we already had people that were able to take on new capabilities and just raise the bar. We go, oh, you need, it's like getting a Supra way back in the day. And you're like, I need this. SOCOM looked and they're like, I need a car that goes 190 miles an hour. And I need a car that we can, it's got a good, frame on it, but we need a car that can do this. As opposed to just magicking up a new car and taking years and maybe decades to design this new career field, we were like, hold on. We've got a Supra. A Supra could take a huge engine. It's modifiable. You can do anything to it. I can actually build this to be the car that you need. And that's what the Air Force did with SR. So tell me about the basic.
Actually more like the Paul Walker's Eclipse from the first Fast and the Furious. That's what it was.
Did he drive an Eclipse or did he drive a Supra? I thought the Nissan. Oh, no, it was a Skyline. Was it a Nissan Skyline?
I thought he had like an Eclipse in the very beginning. I don't know, but
all right,
those also used to be popular for. It doesn't matter.
Right,
I just wanted to start with a crappier car than a Supra.
So when we decided to build all these capabilities on top of SOWT, Special Operations Weather, and turn it into SR, you were the guy on the ground that literally helped write the new playbook for what they were. So when you were building this suite of capabilities, what excited you about the move from SOWT to SR?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's the fellows already wanted to go in the reconnaissance route, right? Under the SOCOM requirements for SOWT, one of the things that it said was environmental reconnaissance. And so that's kind of weird. But also, we'd been moving towards reconnaissance for a long time. So the opportunity to get guys into no kidding reconnaissance schoolhouses and get them the training that they're already, some of them were already getting, but like institutionalize it was exciting. But man, the electronic stuff, the emissions, seeing the problem sets out there, having some of those briefings that we can't really talk about, you realize that the problem is never going to go away. And to have the opportunity to help create a generation of airmen that could get after those problems in a very real way was that was what was exciting. Like like you said, I was a SOWT guy for a long time. I'm a weather guy. I was never ashamed of being a SOWT. It's a weird thing that happens sometimes with some of the guys, but moving in this new direction and knowing the young guys that we had, that's what got me excited is kind of being that, and as it took shape, being that tactical arm of Intel and EW and all that other crap.
But Trent, everybody already has recon assets. Marine Recon, Ranger Regiment, they all have these recon folks. Why in the world would we need a specific Air Force recon? Are they the same? Do they do the same job?
In a lot of ways, yes. But then why did the Marines have recon if the Army has recon?
Right.
What I mean? Like the argument never holds up. They're like, well, the Navy SEALs could do it. And I'm like, well, then why do we have Navy SEALs that go to recon schools and MARSOC guys and Marine Recon guys all under the same department of the Navy? And then you want to come at me and be like, why do we have, and it's like, hey, actually, I know some J's that have done some pretty wazoo, recce, secret squirrely stuff as well. So like, it doesn't matter, and the Air Force, I think, got stuck in this whole GWAT mentality where we are, we're there when you call us. You know what I mean? Instead of being the leaders in a lot of certain aspects. And when you look at, the SWAS, when you look at the intel, when you look at the electronic environment, there's no reason that the Air Force shouldn't be leading when it comes to producing and defeating those types of systems.
Because those are the effects that we're getting after. And this is an important distinction. Yes, the SEALs have recon, Army has recon, Marines have recon. And guess what? They're not working on Air Force teams to take care of Air Force problems. Air Force problems are near peer or pacing threat problems that we have to fix for the entire architecture. The Army isn't going into that space if there's integrated air defenses that are going to shoot down your helicopter. Okay?
No.
Who fixes that problem? The Air Force does. Did we have a recon element that were able to defeat those systems? No, we didn't. That's why we even if we requested a Navy SEAL that had some sort of recon school background, or a Marine Force Recon guy, or a MARSOC Raider, or whoever, insert whatever special operations you want into this thing. Even if we could request them, they wouldn't know how to fix that problem. We needed a career field to work on Air Force teams in order to fix those problems for the larger architecture, because that's what SOCOM asked us to do. And everybody loves to poo-poo it. Oh, Air Force doesn't need special reconnaissance. Air Force doesn't need... I get it. You're just being contrarian. Being contrarian is the lowest hanging fruit that you can do, because you don't even need to have a position. You just need to go, nuh-uh. That's what you're doing.
I do enjoy doing that.
Yeah. I do enjoy doing it. Yeah, being contrarian is fun because it's the easiest thing to do, right? Yeah. It's really hard to look at a scenario, to look at the facts of the matter, and then come up with a position. And in this point, in this context, come up with a career field that actually fixes that problem set. And there's always going to be resistance. Trent, are we giving SR guys out to the larger DoD architecture? Are they working in that enabler function?
I mean, just like everybody else, a little bit, but it's not really what we're driving towards, right? And one of the other things is when you look at SR for the Air Force, like the reason that the Air Force JTACs are better than everybody else is because they're used to working with the air assets that are going to be dropping the bombs and all the other things, right? Because the Air Force inherently understands the capabilities and limitations of our own air assets. So when it comes to that next fight, it's not like I couldn't take a Navy SEAL with 6 months of training, explain to him why we have to do certain things to some of these assets to allow our F-22s with a bunch of F-15s to go along with them. To do the things that they need to do. That's not what we're looking for. Like, I need a guy to do it right now who understands the greater architecture of like how this affects the F-22 systems and all these other things that we're getting after, like where their stealth capabilities end, where their jamming capabilities end, where their vulnerabilities are. And that's just built into the entire Air Force. Like I keep saying infrastructure, but that's what it is. And so that we already have that training built in to go after those things.
Right.
And I forgot the question that you actually asked.
It's okay. You answered it correctly. So the enabler mission, guys, we've said it a million times. That's the value proposition of getting into Air Force special warfare and specifically special reconnaissance, right? We are such a high demand, low density asset. Is there less than 100 SR guys right now? I think there has to be, right?
I think there's more. It's hard to say. I don't know. I'm not looking at the numbers anymore, and I never like throwing the numbers out anyway.
Right.
Because anyway, there's China knows. But
it's in Jane's, guys. You can go to Jane's military book. We put out manning numbers every single year. All of it's unclassed. But we're such a high
they're
demand.
So accurate too. Those manning
numbers. High demand, low density assets. Like they perform a specific function. It's why people will ask us, "Oh, what's the difference between an 18 Delta and a PJ? They don't need medics." You're right. They're not asking for a medic. They're asking for a PJ. When you're asking for an SR guy, you're asking for a specific suite of capabilities that SR can only provide, and they mean to do that on AFSPECWAR teams. That's what they're meant to provide.
Yeah.
Trent, let's dangle the carrot, baby. What kind of cool shit can SR do?
I mean, it's at the base level, right? So when we started this, we went to SOCOM. We said, "Hey, what reconnaissance course should we steal all their stuff from?" They gave us the Army reconnaissance course that we stole all their curriculum from, per their guidelines. And when we go down just the reconnaissance route, it's the Freefall. Hopefully Dive is coming back. I don't know where that's at right now, honestly.
Nobody
and I know
does.
AFSOC is trying to correct that, whatever happened. You're going to jump, you're going to do Freefall. And if you stick with it long enough as a 7 level, you have to go through an accredited sniper course. And that's another thing that people like to poo-poo, and I think that mostly within our own community like to poo-poo that, like, why do we need snipers? And it's like, I need leadership, I need time in the glass, I need the sneaky peeky skills. Is it good? Should my guys be able to reach out and touch something kinetically if required? Absolutely yes, and that is a requirement. But it's a lot more than just shooting long distance and hitting your target. So on that side of the fence, there's that. There's the like the ASOT skills. That it's not just an SR specific thing that a lot of folks can do, and is, I think, a very good training path to go down as well. And then there's all your intel, electronic warfare stuff on top of the SWAS. And then I bring all that kind of together because in my mind they're all complementary of each other, or they could be if the Air Force actually cared enough about their SWAS program to pour more money and assets and resources into it. And I'm going to keep talking about it because they absolutely should, because we're supposed to be the lead on that for at least for SOCOM. But man, when you talk about what's possible with, putting in a low tech infill and then bringing the tech to bear that we have the capability to bring to bear in some of these situations to, make things look like they're a certain way, or to take over assets, or to, take assets offline, or to, it's like when you watch like Ocean's 11, right? Like you change the cameras so it looks like nothing is happening. It's just a loop of what it was before. Stuff like that. When you start thinking about it, it's pretty rad stuff that they can do.
And people don't understand that too immediately from a personnel recovery sort of optic, because when I hear these things, the point of a PJ is not like, this isn't inside combat rescue, guys. Pararescue was never meant to ride on helicopters, charge into an HLZ, get into a gunfight, save a guy, and come out, right? We did that for a long time, and it killed a lot of our PJs, including some of our friends. But what Trent is saying here, the purpose of being a PJ, like, go back to Vietnam. Where did the green feet come from? The green feet came from a bunch of guys that took pride in the fact that you didn't know that we were coming in. We were in and out so fast that you couldn't do anything about it. And the only thing that you saw left was our footprints of the Jolly Green Giant. Yep. That's where the green feet came from. So when you start talking about taking the capability that used to be SOWT and is now SR, and you give me the ability to go in on a low-tech inf, maybe I just walk in. Maybe the SR guy there is making sure that nobody can directionally find us with any sort of imminent directional finding capabilities. Maybe they don't know the team is there at all. They don't know they don't know where the survivor is. They know that the survivor is down, and they also don't know where the team is. Yep. How awesome would it be to go in there without firing a single shot, link up with that guy, walk out, and the enemy thought everything was fine. And in the meantime, they're still looking for that survivor, and we're already back home. Yep. That's what SR provides to the fight. When people are talking about, well, what does SR do on a recovery mission? Holy shit, a ton. Holy shit, a ton. It's like, oh, well, what does a JTAC do if they're not calling in fires? Holy shit, a ton.
Yeah.
Their coordination between air and ground assets, situational awareness, blue force tracking, all these other things. If I had an SR guy and a JTAC on a hill, so the SR guy's the sniper, the JTAC is on the radio, they've got one support guy with them, probably a spotter, in order to provide a little bit of security, and some PJs are going in to get that survivor. I've got Overwatch thanks to a sniper capability. I've got all the Overwatch I need thanks to a JTAC. I have situational awareness. The team is protected, and we can get in, get out, get that survivor, and bring him back home. That's what Air Force Special Operations teams can do. We can defeat that larger integrated air defense with our full suite of capabilities that are complementary, by the way. So people are like, oh, well, why not just make controllers drone operators? Do you not think they have enough to do? You know how hard being a JTAC is, guys, girls, they, thems? You know how hard it is to be a JTAC just to be a good JTAC? How about being a pararescueman? How about look at one of our capabilities? How about knowing how to do personnel recovery? We're the only people that do it. And oh, by the way, we're also SOCOM level medics, gold standard medics. You know how long it takes me to do? I can't fly a drone as a PJ. I can't ask a controller to fly a drone or a TAC-P guy to also fly a drone and also know EMS and also know these recce skills, also be able to forecast, also do environmental stuff.
Seize airfields. Will also do all these other things, which everybody like. It's like when you talk about seizing an airfield, right? Like it sounds so simple. It's like, oh, you go in and seize the airfield. It's like
you jump in, you own the airfield, right?
You don't know what you're talking about. You know, like it's
Right.
there's so many moving pieces and everybody's doing their own thing and it's chaos. And it's like, that's what we do. Like special operations is the wedge that drives into an area and opens up enough space for conventional forces to follow on behind.
Right.
But that wedge, there's a lot of stuff going on there, you know, and it's very complicated. So if you don't understand, it's hard to. I don't want to be like a dick to people and be like, you don't understand, but you don't understand how complicated it is. It's like, and the 18 Delta thing, go call that person a medic. You know, like there's so
Yeah.
much more than a medic. You know, like
That's not even their primary mission. They organize in 12-man teams because there was a study that was done. 12-man teams are the most combat survivable. That's the lowest level combat survivability. It's why SOFT teams are typically organized in 12-man elements, because it's a combat survivability study that they did. But those folks, they're there for foreign internal defense and training of guerrilla forces in order to free the oppressed. You know, De Oppresso, what is it? Libera De Oppresso, or De Oppresso De Libera, or something, whatever.
De Oppresso Libre.
There we go.
Yeah.
They're not there to. Yes, they have a medical capability to help their team combat survivability, but that's not their primary mission set.
Yep.
Right? Like PJs, we have medical stuff, but it's to provide the capability, and we're going to keep harping on that. SR provides a specific capability in order to be a synergistic effect. Synergistic means 1 + 1 = 3. When you put an SR guy on a team of JTACs and PJs, combat controllers, TAC-Ps, PJs, combat rescue officers, special tactic officers, when you put them on that team, you get an effect that is more than 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 3, because now you can do a whole suite of things. You can get in, you can take over an airfield to get the larger force in, to get a larger airhead or a larger beachhead, or support the larger SOCOM architecture. You have the ability to handle a mass casualty exercise. You have the ability to run an airfield once you open it, to call those people in. You have standoff capability that you can protect the team. All of these things work in concert. So for the people that are poo-pooing SR and saying, "Oh, I don't get it, I don't understand," it's because you don't understand, and your ignorance has bred arrogance.
Well, and when you've been in some of these situations too, like we all do cross train with each other, right? And it's not like, and that helps, but man, when the level of capability that you need out of the individuals is so high when things hit the fan. And it's not like I can't provide some medical, or I couldn't talk to an aircraft or whatever, right? Like that's the same as being like, well, a combat controller could do all the SR things. I know the controllers, J's, TAC-Ps are some of the most capable people on the planet, and they're my friends. I'm not saying that they couldn't, with the training, do what I do, and vice versa. It's just when everybody has like a specific role to play, we're all going to cross train a little bit, which just helps the team be more effective. But when it comes down to it, you want that person that doesn't have to think about it, that is the expert in that particular thing, to do their job when you don't have time to dilly-dally.
I was on a training exercise, and I've told this a bunch of times. I was evaluating a PJ. He was in his element leader upgrade. So I was evaluating. I was completely outside of the scenario. The PJ was running the scenario, right? So he's the team leader. There was not a single PJ on the rope. There was not a single PJ on the rock that we were climbing. There was not a single PJ that was down treating the patient that we had to go get because we didn't have it. That the controllers and the TAC-Ps ran that rope scenario from building the system. The PJ that was there, his job was to check it, make sure that it was safe, and then direct his people to do it. When people ask us, "Oh, well, what does a controller do during a personnel recovery mission?" He works the mission, guys. Shoot, move, communicate, lead, JTAC. That's what combat control does. Shoot, move, communicate, lead, reconnaissance. That's what SR does. Shoot, move, communicate, lead, medicate, extricate. That's what PJs do. Tech rescue. That's what we're there to do. And when you work in concert, you have those high demand, low density assets that are all working in concert with complementary capabilities that get you to an effect. They provide a capability to the overall force provider. That's what SR does. Where is SR going, Trent? What are you excited for the future of SR?
I mean, it's staying on the leading edge of the tech, and it's always a fun game. Like it's exhausting, but when you look at where everything's going, it's you know, when you talk about GPS or the lack of GPS, you know, like just start thinking about some of these problem sets, y'all. Like if you go into a place and you can't use GPS, like how do you know where you're at? You know, using the low tech you know, directional radio waves to communicate, or how do you do that if you can't communicate? Like how do you get in there? How do you defeat infrared? How do you know, like all these things that you have to overcome to get to where we're going to do our job. Hey, that's always fun when someone shows up in our lobby.
I just can't. I love finding out who our guest is here, because I wasn't tracking a guest, but that's it. So we'll figure that out. Yeah, we'll figure that one out here in a second. Everybody, we just wanted to give you a quick hitter on what SR was, and you guys are always asking for updates. Hopefully, that at least gets the questions going. Put your questions down in the comments. We'd love to hear them. DM us, let us know, and we will go from there. So for this one, quick hitter: what is SR? Why does Trent care about it? And why is it not weather anymore? There you go. Have a good one.
Use your imagination.